You've probably seen it before, right? In a business presentation or maybe a textbook, this neat little pyramid that shows us going from data to information to knowledge and finally up to wisdom. It looks clean, it looks simple, but what if that popular map is, well, completely wrong? Today, we're going to tear that familiar idea down to find a much deeper, more dynamic truth about how we actually learn, and maybe, just maybe, grow a little wiser. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to take a hard look at that popular pyramid and see where the cracks are. Then, we'll jump into what modern psychology and neuroscience tell us about what's actually happening when we learn. After that, we'll get a little philosophical and see what ancient wisdom has to say. And finally, we're going to put all those pieces together to build a brand new and hopefully much better model for understanding. Okay, first stop, the DIKW pyramid. It's super popular because it's so elegant. It promises to show us the straightforward path from total chaos to profound clarity. So let's dig into what it's supposed to do, and then we'll see why this map might actually be leading us astray. You see, this pyramid, it's trying to tackle a huge question. How in the world do we take all the raw, meaningless noise out there and turn it into something as precious and powerful as wisdom? The model suggests a simple four-step climb to the top. And you gotta admit, it feels right, doesn't it? It's like climbing a ladder. You start at the bottom with this huge, messy base of raw data. Then you organize it into useful information. From there, you figure out how to apply it, and that becomes knowledge. And then, right at the very peak, you distill all of that into this rare and valuable thing we call wisdom. Okay, let's break this down with a simple example. You start with a string of numbers. That's just data, totally meaningless on its own. Now give it some context. Say, these are the daily high temperatures. Bam, now you have information. Then you notice a pattern, like when temperatures go up, energy use goes up too. Now you have knowledge. You know how something works. But wisdom? Now that's the big leap. It's about using judgment to answer why. Why should we invest in sustainable energy to handle this? Okay, but here's the thing. This neat little pyramid starts to fall apart pretty quick when you poke at it. For one, learning is almost never a straight line. It's messy. But here's the real killer argument. There's no such thing as raw data. Think about it. To even collect data, you first need a question, a hypothesis, a framework in your mind that tells you what's even worth measuring. The whole idea of starting at the bottom with raw data is backward. And this is where a quote from the author David Weinberger just hits the nail on the head. He says, "The pyramid's very tidiness, how clean it looks, should have been a red flag. Real human understanding isn't a predictable assembly line. It's a creative, complex, and, yeah, often chaotic process." So if that pyramid is basically a faulty GPS, where do we find a better map? Well, for that, let's turn to psychology and see how our actual understanding of learning has evolved. You know, our ideas about learning have totally transformed over the last 100 years or so. We started out with behaviorism, which basically treated the mind like a black box. All it cared about was stimulus in, response out. Then cognitivism came along and started prying open that black box to see the gears turning inside. But the real revolution was constructivism, which says we don't just process information, we actively build our own reality from it. And if you look at this table, check out that row, learner's role. This is the game changer. We went from seeing ourselves as passive sponges just soaking things up to active processors and finally to being the active creators of our own understanding. We aren't just downloading knowledge, we are building it piece by piece. So how does this active creation thing actually work? Well, the psychologist Jean Piaget had this brilliant idea. He said we're basically doing two things all the time. First is assimilation. That's when we take new information and fit it into the mental boxes or schemas we already have. But what happens when something doesn't fit? That's accommodation. We either have to change the shape of a box or build a brand new one. Learning is this constant dance between the two. And you know what's really wild? This idea of building knowledge, it's not just a nice metaphor. It's literally what's happening inside your skull. So let's take a look under the hood at what neuroscience tells us. The magic word here is neuroplasticity. It's this incredible, almost unbelievable ability of the brain to physically change its own wiring based on your experiences. This means every time you learn something new, you're not just gaining an idea, you are physically reconstructing your brain. You are, quite literally, the architect of your own mind. And this all happens down at the tiniest level. There's a famous saying, neurons that fire together, wire together. Every time you have a thought or practice a skill, specific brain cells fire at the same time, and the connection between them gets stronger and faster. And then, over time, especially while you're sleeping, your brain works to make these connections permanent, moving them into long-term storage.
Okay, so our brain is a learning machine. Got it. But what about that final step? That jump from knowing a bunch of stuff to, well, being wise? That ability to use judgment to see the big picture? Turns out that skill has a physical home in the brain.
Meet the prefrontal cortex. It's basically your brain's CEO. This is the part that handles the big stuff, planning for the future, making tough decisions, stopping you from doing something impulsive. And what's so crucial is that it doesn't just work on logic. It's the part of you that mixes cold, hard reason with, empathy and emotional smarts. In the end, wisdom isn't just about what you know. It's all about how you use what you know.
So science gives us the how, the nuts and bolts of learning. But for the what and the why, for what wisdom truly is, we need to look somewhere else. And ancient philosophy, especially from India, has some incredible answers.
Take the Advaita Vedanta school of thought. They have this brilliant way of splitting knowing into two types. First, there's jnana. That's intellectual knowledge. It's like reading a book about how to swim. You know all the facts, the theory is correct. Then there's vijnana. This is realized wisdom. This is what happens when you actually jump in the pool. It's direct, it's real, it's in your bones. It's no longer just an idea, it's a part of you.
And there's this amazing analogy from the sage Sri Ramakrishna that just makes it all click. To know about milk is one thing, but to have drunk the milk, to be nourished by it, to feel it make you stronger, that is something else entirely. See, that's the huge gap, right? The difference between information and transformation.
All right, we've smashed the old pyramid. We've got these awesome new parts from psychology, neuroscience, and philosophy. So let's build something better. Let's put these pieces together into a new model that actually reflects how we make sense of the world. Okay, first things first, we have to completely ditch the idea of a ladder or a pyramid. It's just not how it works. The journey isn't a one-way trip to a finish line. The real process of understanding, it's a loop, a constant spinning cycle of interaction between you and the world. So check this out. Here's our new model, the cycle of understanding. And look where it starts. Not with data out in the world, but with your internal framework, what you already believe. That framework shapes your perception. It literally determines what you even pay attention to. Then your brain gets to work processing and constructing, physically rewiring itself to make sense of things. Then comes the crucial step, application. You take that new understanding and you do something with it. And finally, through reflection, the results of your actions feed right back into your framework, and the whole cycle starts over again. But this time, you're a little bit different. So when you think about it that way, wisdom isn't the trophy you get at the top of the pyramid. It isn't a destination at all. Maybe wisdom is the compass you use on the journey. It's the tool that helps you navigate this never-ending cycle of learning and living with a bit more purpose and clarity. So the question isn't how to reach the top, but rather, how will you choose to navigate your journey?